This is Cathy with City Farmhouse Studio, and today I want to talk to you about the Summer in the City top. This is a great little cotton top that is perfect to dress up, dress down, covers your shoulders, so keeps that a little bit warm instead of a full-on tank, but a little bit shorter than a t-shirt or something with longer sleeves. It's easy to wear over jeans or little leggings. It also is great to put on over a little dress, just to give you a little more covering up top if you're going someplace with a little more air conditioning or a cooler night. I really love this tank. The yarn that I used is the Yarnspirations Bernat Softy Baby Cotton yarn. The one that I did use is the Soft Plum, and it came out very much a pink, I would say, more than a plum, but I do like it. It's not, I didn't think all the colors were super baby or that really stark bright baby pink and bright baby blue. They were a mature soft palette. I really enjoyed the palette options, so that's why I went ahead and chose this this yarn. Also, it was on sale at Joann's, so I got a great deal. So the yarn is a category 3 light. It is a 60% cotton, 40% acrylic. So 254 yards, 232 meters out of a 120 gram ball. So I've really enjoyed this yarn. I would definitely recommend it, and I will be using it again. So to begin, this is probably the most complicated part of the pattern. It is a long tail cast on. However, you hold, instead of, get your slingshot, instead of holding that single strand around your thumb, you need this portion to be double. So how you do that, first you need to get set up for the long tail. So for your desired stitches, wrap it around. So how many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm doing 8 because that is the pattern repeat. So I know that's 1 for the little detail pattern repeat. For double, I know I need to double that to hold the strand double. And then between that, for this sample, I'm going to make 3 versions or 3 pattern repeats. So you will need to make sure you do the math for your calculations. And I'm going to just give me a little bit extra. Okay, so for the double strand long tail cast on, I'm going to set up just like I would for a long tail cast on, but I'm going to take the tail and wrap it around my thumb so that this side of my thumb has 2 strands. And I'm going to take my tail, make sure I have enough, leave myself enough to weave in my ends, set up just like you would for a long tail cast on. And I'm going to take that tail and just kind of hold it down in the center with all the other strands. Like I said, this is the little tricky bit. It's a little bit different to get set up, get your tension right. And then once you do, it's super easy, just like a long tail setup. But getting that kind of positioned and tight and a little more to manage, as you can see. All right, so I got my slingshot position. I'm going to go under 2 from my thumb, wrap the one going to my pointer, and pull through. And then I'm just going to pull the 2 from my thumb and that tail to get everything pulled tight. So now I have 2 stitches on my slip stitch, which is my first, and then the stitch that I just did. And I'm going to repeat through the 2 around my thumb, 2 strands, the 1 strand from my pointer. I'm going to pull, and now I'm holding my tail, that starting edge kind of back along my needle to keep it out of the way. And I go just back and forth to create each stitch on my needle. All right, so there I have all the stitches that I'm going to use for this sample. The pattern for the details at the bottom of the sweater, the top, habit of saying sweater, are a multiple of 8, and then you have a stitch on each end for your seam salvage whenever you sew the front and the back panel together. If you are one of those knitters that prefer to go in the round, go ahead and do the front and the back patterns from the bottom up to below the armholes in a circle. Add your front and back panel cast on stitches together and decrease 4 stitches. That is the 2 selvage for the front and the 2 selvage in the back. Make sure your stitches on your needle are a multiple of 8, and you just keep going around in a circle. And then you would have to do the front chest pattern and the back pattern separate from whenever it splits from the armhole opening. Again, working from the bottom up, you can figure it out. I like to do it a front panel and a back panel, a little bit less weight, easier to transport, and I have my tail end that I began with, the 2 long tail cast on. You can split that later to weave in those ends. And we're ready to begin the pattern chart. The pattern chart is at the bottom of the pattern, the very back of the pattern. And you're going to start at the bottom row. So unlike reading where we read from the top down, for charts you read from the bottom up. So from the bottom on each row, you're going to start each row with a knit stitch. And that is for your selvage. And then we start with the chart, and it begins with the yarn over and then a knit 2 together. And then we repeat that yarn over, knit 2 together to the end of the row, leaving 1 stitch left unworked. All right, so I have all my yarn overs, knit 2 togethers, all through the line, ending with a knit 2 together. I have 1 stitch left on the hook. Sorry, I have 1 stitch left on the needle. Knit that last stitch. Then you're going to turn and you purl straight across the row. I'm doing the method taught by Arnie and Carlos, if you are wondering. So now I've come to that first yarn over from the previous row. I'm going to purl that just like the other stitches. So for every decrease that I've made, I have that yarn over to increase that stitch. So your stitch count for every row should not change for this decorative motif. So purl all the way to the end of the row. After you've purled that one row, start seeing that bottom edge of the eyelets. Nice little detail, nice little cast on edge. So now for the next row up. This is the 3rd row up from the bottom. Again, we're going to begin with our knit 1. We're going to yarn over 1, knit 2. Now we come to the first center double decrease, and to do that you're going to slip 2 of them over knitwise at the same time, knit 1, and then put those back. and then you knit 2 again. Yarn over, so that adds that stitch that we decreased on this side. We have 1 on each side, and then we have 1 knit stitch that will be a straight column between each of the repeating motifs. And then we repeat. We yarn over, knit 2, slip 2 off. Make sure I'm just getting the stitches. Knitwise, knit 1, pass the 2 back over, and there's our center double decrease, knit 2, yarn over, and that's our single one that will continue up straight. And then we repeat, yarn over, knit 2, begin our center double decrease where you pass 2 over knitwise, knit 1, pass that over, knit 2, yarn over, and knit 1. So that is our pattern, and then we knit 1 more for our selvage. Then we turn and purl. Okay, so I purled that next row, and now we're ready to begin the next one. So like all of them, that first stitch, I'm going to knit, and then I begin my pattern chart. So it's a knit 1, yarn over, knit 1 again. Oh, split my yarn there. There's my knit. And then I'm going to do the center double decrease, so slip 2 knitwise, knit 1, pass those 2 over, knit 1, yarn over, and now I knit the 1 to finish that pattern, but then I have that 1 for the solid column that runs all the way straight down, and then I repeat. So it's a knit 1, yarn over, knit 1, do the center double decrease, knit 1, yarn over, knit 1, and then the solid column to finish that 8 stitches. Knit 1, yarn over, knit 1, and then we'll do the center double decrease, knit 1, yarn over, that's 1, the solid edge, so that's my 8 stitch pattern, and then the last one for my selvage. Guess what? Time to purl. Finish that row of purls, and you can really start to see how they're decreasing in towards that center double decrease, and then you have 1 straight column center double decrease, and then that column before the selvage. So this is the last row of patterning. It's going to be a knit, that first stitch, get all that up there. And then this time we knit 2, yarn over, and go straight into the double decrease. Yarn over, and then we're going to knit those 2 that we did on the other side, and then that solid column. Okay, there you can see I finished the pattern chart, and then I've done a few rows of just standard stockinette, so you can really start to see how the motif is starting to lay. You're automatically getting those little scallop points. All of these stitches move into that center decrease column, and the eyelets are going down along the sides. So pretty simple once you take it row by row, nothing too crazy. The pattern then tells you to work a set amount of stockinette stitches. This set goes to the bottom of the armhole opening. For some sizes, you will need to decrease in to get a little bit more narrower in the shoulders, so the proportions are similar in the shoulders as the sizes go up. Not all sizes will have to do that, but if you are the size, you will need to do some rows with some bind offs. It will then tell you to do another set of straight rows until you get to this, to the neck short rows. And what that is as you work in, you only work the desired number of stitches in, and you leave the rest of the stitches live, but you just keep going back and forth, back and forth. And there's a technique that you use so you don't get holes as you go through. And that's what I'm going to show you right now. So what I'll say is to, let me get my yarn untangled. All right. I'll tell you to knit a certain amount of stitches. I'm just going to knit until I get towards the center here, and that will be my pretend neckline. So I'm going to knit. It'll tell you to work the set number of stitches, and then it says to wrap yarn around the next unworked stitch and return back to left needle. So what you do is you take it, you're going to slip it purlwise, bring the yarn up front, and then slip that stitch back on, moving your yarn back. Okay. Now it's going to say turn your work. And you're going to purl this next row. So just as usual, move across as a purl. And for now, that is all you will do for those stitches now on my right. Okay. Okay, now the next section says knit the next row, leaving, let me see, leaving 2 more stitches unworked at the end of the row. So I'm going to go knit the row, and if I look, I can tell that's the stitch I wrapped. So I want to leave 2 unworked, so that's 3 more I need to work. So 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to slip that, pull it back to the front or to the back, turn the work, I should say that I have reverted back to my standard way of purling, which keeps my tension most consistent. It does reverse my stitches on the neck face. So if you see that and are confused, that's why. It tends to not mess me up unless I'm doing decreases. Okay. So there we have our 2 short rows. You can start seeing those kind of stand out. Now there are some sections where it says to bind off at the beginning of the row. And what this is going to do is, as your sleeve comes down, it's going to give a nice little curve on that sleeve cap so that it doesn't just stick straight out off your shoulder. It kind of rolls down. So you're going to bind off. So I'm just going to bind off a couple of these for my decrease. It's so much harder keeping this under the camera. I want to get it closer to my eyes. And then you knit to your neckline. I'm just going to leave one unworked. Just that. Going to slip it purlwise, bring the yarn forward, slip it back, and there we go. Turn my work and purl away. Oh, and then, forgot, it will say to purl 2 together at the end of the row. And what that does is, on that sleeve cap, you have a bind off, and you have a bind off on every row. So you won't get a jagged stair step to seam in on your shoulder edge. It's this nice, smooth decrease line. So very simple. It sounds confusing, but as you take it step by step, it's not. Now you'll do that and you'll get to the end of your shoulder and it'll say to bind off your certain amount of stitches. And then you'll need to go detach the yarn, or you can start a new ball of yarn and work the same repeating mirror image for your other side of the shoulder. And then I'll tell you you're going to work this neck edge, and that's what I'm going to show you. So your first row, you'll be picking up some stitches along a little bit, but not much. Knit across, and when you get to that first wrap, not split my yarn, you want to go under that wrap and turn. So you can see that has the wrap, and into that original stitch, and I want to knit those 2 together. That has one as well. I want to knit it together. And that's just a standard stitch, so I'll knit that. This one has a wrap and turn, it's pulling it. So I want to knit, and there we go. And you knit those together. And I'll just do a few rows, a few couple. So that's your first row. And you can see it really pulls that in together where you did those short rows and not have crazy holes in your knitting. You'll finish doing that across your other neckline, which we'll say is right there. And then you're going to turn and you're going to do 2 rows of reverse stockinette, and this helps for your bind off or for your the edging along the edge to give it a nice finished edge. So to do that, I have the purl side facing me. For the reverse, instead of purling this row, I'm just going to knit it. All right, so now I'm back to the knit side of the fabric, and I'm onto my second row of reverse stockinette. So this time, instead of knitting this row, I want to purl. So I'll do that. I will say that you can see my change in gauge from where I do my traditional knitting, purling, to the Arnie and Carlos method of purling. I get a little looser gauge with it than I do my other version. Okay, that's where I stopped my purl row for my neck edge. And now to bind off, I need to get my crochet needle, my crochet hook. You would have this already bound off. We're just gonna take that out, put it off to the side, and just loosely crochet off with a slip stitch. So there's one, and I'll pull a loop through the hook, the loop on the needle, and pull that straight through. If you have a different method you bind off that you prefer, that is quite fine. I just like this method because I can really control the slip stitch sizes, and if I need a little bit looser or to tighten them based on what I'm doing. Okay, and just kind of pull that through to give it a little bit of stability. And there you can see how you've done the basics for this pattern: the bottom lace detail, standard stockinette, how to short row, and then how you complete the edging for the neckline and also around the sleeve openings, where you just pick up some stitches and work those reverse stockinette and a crochet bind off. So please be sure to like and subscribe to the City Farmhouse Studio video. That way you will not miss any more of our great patterns that are coming out. Thanks again. See you later. Bye.